What's up, guys? Welcome back to Zabernai here, your tech and games crusader, and today we have an unboxing for the heaviest power supply I have ever used. It is the Be Quiet Dark Power Pro 12 1500 watt 80 plus titanium modular, fully modular, that is, power supply. So this thing retails for $449.99 on Amazon, and I believe that is also the MSRP as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we have on the box. A very understated outside sleeve on the packaging here, and it is an embossed box with silver text. And then on the sleeve on the back of the box, we have information here. Be Quiet is a premium brand of PC power supplies, PC cases, and cooling solutions, as well as the consistent PSU market leader in Germany since 2007. All conception, design, and testing is done with a German passion for quality and precision at our headquarters in Germany. Innovative engineering concepts, premium materials, and world-class quality make Be Quiet products among the most silent, reliable, and powerful available. For more information, visit bequiet.com. And this is sourcing GfK data 2019. So we have here a QR code for the website, product information in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 languages. So English, German, French, Spanish, Polish, Dutch, I can't think, Russian, Taiwanese, and Chinese. I can't think what that one is. My brain. Here we have certifications for the power supply: 80 plus titanium, EAC, triple C, C and E. It is certified with the Tervrinon certification, type approved safety, regulation, production, and surveillance. And then, of course, FCC ID. So the interesting thing about this power supply is it lists it as being 1500 watts, a multi-rail design, 6 12-volt rails, of which you have 40 amp, 40 amp, 40 amp, 40 amp on the first 4, and then the last 2 are 45 amps. So that's not the only thing it can do, though. This power supply can do what, with an overclocking switch, change from a multi-rail up to a single rail 12 volt. But there have been some conceptions and feedback and reviews that say that this mode, in overclock mode is what they call it, has led to some of the wires for the overclock cable to the switch that goes on the expansion bay of a case burning up. So let's go ahead and get into this and see for ourselves what we have. No rusty, trusty, dusty Radio Shack opening tool required for this, because it is just formed plastic, and it's not even heat shrunk to a tight grade. So it's just a standard sleeving plastic. So the box itself has a suede feel to it, and like I said before, this is embossed. It reminds me of the box that my MSI GTX 780 Lightning came in, where it was a large oversized box, and that box actually opened like a treasure chest with a hinge on it. So it opened like this, but there's no hinge on this. So we'll just sit that right there. You can see it here. It has embossed "Be Quiet" on a pressed cord foam, which is a good type of foam. As you can see, it rebounds quite well. So, from here, we have an inner box inside that box. And it's got that same kind of suede covering. It almost feels like a thin layer of fabric is put over top of the box. Is there a manual? Let's look and see what it says here. Maybe I can figure out by this what the actual languages were. So we got English, Deutsch, Francais, Polish, Spanish. I still don't know what that one is. I think there's more languages in the manual. Maybe it was Turkish. I don't know. Alright. The other thing I had a question about on this power supply is all of the reviews I've seen so far run it in 230 volt mode. And I would rather be running it in 115/110 RAM in the USA. It's cool that it does have safety functions of OCP over current protection, UVP under voltage protection, OVP over voltage protection, SCP short circuit safeguard protection, OTP, and that's temperature safeguard protection, and then OPP overload protection, which OPP would be over power protection. OTP would be over temperature safeguard protection. And then SCP is short circuit protection. It does have a 10-year manufacturer's warranty on it, so that's pretty cool. I did extensive research before looking to purchase this power supply, because I have currently a Seasonic X1050 that is gold rated, and I would prefer to stay with Seasonic if possible, if at all possible, but the current state of things has made it nearly impossible to get any Seasonic power supply over 750 watts available for a decent price. So this is just going through the same thing again in different languages. It's a very simplified manual. So continuing on with what we have in the box here, here's that overclock switch that I was talking about. Typically, any kind of switch like this on a Seasonic power supply, you would actually see it on the back area where you would input your modular cables. And basically what the switch does on a Seasonic power supply, it takes it from a PWM fan mode to a constant fan speed instead. That's basically keeps it, like in your power settings on Windows, you have low current idle on the BIOS for fan speed power, and then you have like cool and quiet or quiet mode, where this is advertised as being like a quiet brand type of device. I don't really care about noise. I have a very workshop-esque type of setup, and noise doesn't bother me because I either put on headphones or I'll just go without sound sometimes and just have music going on my phone. That way I don't hinder my system usage or any other windows that may possibly interrupt any sort of coding or projects that I'm working on for transcode or conversions and such, or gaming. It does come with quite a few Velcro straps, which I am excited about. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 10 Velcro straps. I always prefer seeing these over zip ties. Zip ties are the bane of my existence, and all they do is just degrade cables over time. Other than those two things in here, we also have thumb screws for the power supply. Very good heavy gauge thumb screws too. I like that they have the separation, and they also have the design, I don't remember what it's called right now, on the sides of it. But these are thumb screws. As you can tell, there is no actual head to unscrew it otherwise on there. Then we have standard, headed screws that you would use for a power supply. Here is that overclocking expansion bracket. And all this is, let's take a look and see what the quality is on these. I would probably actually cover those with electric tape, just to keep anything from crossing and shorting out. Because that's a pretty strong bend right there that you can see it's lifted up the sleeving. It has 2 screws holding on this design. The solder work on it is pretty clean. Yet again, look, zip tie. That will not be staying on there. Plastic and electronics do not mix. Zip ties, in my opinion, are what people use when they just want to have something work well enough for now, and not well enough to keep working, for the length of an entire warranty service area, or service time. So here we have all of these. These things, these are the bane of my existence. Zip ties. They can go in the trash. Don't care. These will probably get used. Yeah, there's another one. Trash. Recycle. Turn it into something useful. And something you don't typically see on most power supplies. Cable pumps. So this thing is definitely designed for a clean appearance and kind of a fancy-dancy type of dress-up, theme, for a clean build-out. These may or may not get used depending on what cables end up getting used out of this, or if I use my cable extensions, because without these on there, it is a lot easier to fold up cables to hide away in the basement of your case, out of sight. So now that we've gone through that, oh look, more things to recycle. I've fixed way too many systems that people just decided, oh yeah, I'm going to put zip ties on your liquid cooling tubes to keep them out of the way. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of or seen. So let's go ahead and go through the cables we have here for the power supply. First off, we have a serial ATA connection cable. We have the entrance, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's four serial ATA connections, and then 1, 2, 3 more serial ATA connections. Yeah, a mixture here. This one has serial ATA and Molex on it. So 4-pin Molex. We got 2 serial ATA and 2 Molex. So that gives us 9 serial ATA and 2 Molex. Here we have a Molex to floppy connector, which it's cool to actually still see these on newer power supplies, because there are more things that get used for this connection than just a floppy drive. Like my LS120 drive still uses this connector. Here we have another floppy connector to Molex. We have a Molex, 3 Molex pins on here. So that gives us to 5 Molex. We have another serial ATA and 4 more serial ATA connections. That gives us 13. There's 3 more serial ATA connections. That gives us 16. And then we have 1, 2, 3 more Molex connections, which brings us up to 8 for that. Alright, so from there we have a dual 6+2 pin PCI Express connection, which I don't like seeing these that have 2 on the same cable. That's the one thing I really like about my current Seasonic 1050 watt power supply, is you have these without having 2 on there. You have some that have single connection cables, and you have some that have dual connection cables. So anytime you're using a high power graphics card, you don't take one of these cables and plug both in from the same cable. Always use one of these per cable on a high-end graphics card like a RTX 30 series for the adapter that it has for the 2 8-pins, because otherwise you're going to have issues down the road whenever you hit a load on that. So that gives us 2 PCI Express connections. This is a EPS 8-pin 12 volt that's broken into 4+4. We have another PCI Express 6+2 2 connector cable yet again. So that gives us 4 total, but I only count those as 1 because I would only make use of 1 per cable. We have another of that same type, which I would count as 3, but that makes 6. And then another of that same type, which I would count as 1, but that would make 4, but that would make 8 according to their logic. Here we have a solid 8-pin EPS connector with, that gives us 2 12-volt 8-pin connections total. Here we have another of our 6 plus 2 with 2 connections on it, so that gives us 10, or I would call 5. And then we have our 20 pin plus 4, which I don't know how I feel about that. See, in this day and age, no motherboard in the last 12 years has used just a 20 pin connection. They have all been 24 pin. Actually, closer to 14 years now. So almost a decade and a half, and they're still putting a connection on here modularly with an attachment cable. That would be for an old system. But I guess it kind of fits their dynamic of including 2 floppy drive connections as well for adapters. But yeah, well, that does it for the cables, guys. So we'll go ahead and we'll put these cables up here. So that leads us to the power supply, the heaviest thing in this build, or in this unboxing. Gotta say, right off the bat, for being a frameless design, yes, this is a frameless fan design. It looks really good, but I feel like they could have gotten away with a little bit larger fan. But I understand that this thing was already packed as it is, for the amount of stuff they put in here. And this is a actual brushed aluminum enclosure. So that's pretty nice. That is definitely quality. It's probably why it is so heavy as well. People think, oh yeah, well, aluminum is just kind of lightweight. Well, it is when it's thin. But whenever you have... It's also very sharp too. Just a heads up. This is quite sharp. Okay, so something to realize right on here off the bat. We have... These are labeled by which 12 volt they go to. That's actually pretty cool. You don't see that on a whole lot of power supplies. Then, same thing with the drives. It shows which one that they're going to. Though they all seem to show 12 volt first rail on the drives. 12 volt first rail on the motherboard. OC cable. We got 12 volt rail 2 on the 8 pin here. And 12 volt rail 2 on the 8 pin here. So motherboard takes these 2 cables to plug in for the 20 plus 4 pin. And then this one is 12 volt rail 3, 12 volt rail 4, 12 volt rail 6, 12 volt rail 5, and 12 volt rail 5. So I noticed right off of the bat, these 2 alone are on 12 volt rail 5. Which tells me that these would be the 2 45 amp capable 12 pin or PCI Express connections. Essentially, it is a 12 pin, but yeah, that's kind of cool. If we take a look at the side here, we have all of our information. Man, that is really sharp on these corners. I mean, it's going to resist fingerprints because it is brushed aluminum, but that is super sharp on the edges. It is definitely a hard fold on the aluminum. But as you can see here again, it shows, these making up the 1500 watts. You have 5 volt VSB making up 17.5, 3 volt and 5 volt making up 150. All right, here's the elephant in the room. Most power supplies that are over 1200 watts, you will see this kind of a blade connection on it. It looks like the, squinty eyes, flat mouth, no expression. Like uninterested type of expression. The reason why is because it has a super beefy power supply cable. Let's actually look and see what gauge this is here. It does say 60C. It is 14 or 3 by 14 gauge thick. So this is 3 14 gauge cables inside of here thickness wise. That's crazy. You can see also reinforcement around the plug itself. Keeps it very rigid with very little bends to it. And it does show here on the plug, this cable is rated for 15 amps up to 125 volts. But yeah, it's very hard to confuse how this power supply goes in. Typically, you would see on a regular power supply, it won't be a square. It'll be like a house top where these top corners are kind of shaved like this, and it'll go in one way. So if you're looking at it, it's easy to get. But if it's in the back of your case, and your case is under a desk and stuff, and you have to reach behind, you don't want to try and force this in, because you can easily shock yourself and damage the cable and the power supply. These will break off. So what I would advise is feel for where you can feel at the top, reaching behind your case first to feel two next to each other. Don't try and feel for angles and stuff like that, but reach behind your case and you feel for the edge of it, 2 fingers, and then put pressure down. And then you can see right there is where it goes. So then you would turn your power supply cable to where the same way, and you're reaching behind. Let's do it like this. And you're reaching behind, you're trying to get it. The easiest way is to angle first. To get to the edge of the socket. Then it should just wiggle in. And that's there. So yeah, guys, this is probably the beefiest, but also build quality wise on the outside, attention to detail. It exudes quite a bit of quality in the way it's designed, the way it looks, because it has this herringbone flash mesh here over top of the fan. You would think looking at it that it was honeycomb, but it's not. It is actually diamond shape, which in the overall pattern of it, you can see the highlights of the angles, which makes it a herringbone flash type mesh. I mean, you can see how sharp these corners are, and I'm surprised that there's actually no chipping of any sort on any of this. That is all smooth. So depending on the way you would want to face this power supply in your case. So if you have a standard tower and the way it looks like that they want you to format it is fan up because of the holes on here. You don't have the dual holes to be able to maneuver flipping it over one way or another. So it's designed where they want you to just see this. They don't want you to see this because this is upside down. And it's upside down for a reason. That's what they want you to see. It's got a satisfying click to it. It's a really solid piece. And then this box, there's nothing else in there. It's just all cord foam all around the outsides of it. So this thing probably could have taken some bumps during the journey here on UPS or USPS, whatever, and it definitely would have survived. Like by far, this thing would have survived. But yeah, guys, we will get into testing it later this week after a couple of other things arrive that hopefully will make my system more stable. And we'll go from there. I am just lining up the cables so we can see what we have. And this thing, hopefully I don't get bit by the bespoken trying to think. By the bespoken catching on fire fairy from this, because that would be a tragedy befallen no one wants to experience. So here we have our 10 PCI Express cable connections that are 5 cables of 2, which I am displeased with the design of. And I would really like to see them create a single 12-volt rail power supply only that is fully modular and titanium rated above 1200 watts. But yeah, guys, this thing is beastly, to say the least. If you like this content, you feel that I did a decent job and don't mind my way of being thorough, going through things, and providing what I can in feedback and the such. Feel free to give a like to the video, or consider subscribing. The channel did reach 300 subs on Sunday, and one of the things that I've thought about doing once I hit 500 subs is being able to do some giveaways for different things. Some game codes, gift cards for different services, and possibly some other things that I've been sent that I have no use for, and they just basically told me that, just keep it, but I don't want to, because I don't like to accept things for free, even if it's something that I enjoy and like. I like to make sure that the vendors get their sales, and it doesn't reflect as I'm receiving something for compensation of doing something, rather than just I'm providing feedback to better a product. My opinion can't be bought. I have integrity. I was raised that way, and it's just the type of person that I am, that I was raised to be. You don't see a lot of genuine core values that way nowadays. From some people, they just like, oh yeah, give me free stuff and I'll tell you what you want to hear. You're not going to get that from me. I am not that kind of a person. I will always tell you based on my experience with something and my observations, not off of anyone else's research or anyone else's reference materials. The only thing I did on this power supply is when I was doing research for more than 1200 watt power supplies, I noticed a bunch of reviews, and then I looked into it, contacted the company, and asked them on it, and they said that it's basically where people were improperly using the button for the overclock, where that, oh yeah, I'm just going to switch that on whenever I'm in the middle of using the power supply and I'm going to game. I'm going to switch it on, and it caught fire. So if I find out anything else otherwise, I will always answer all comments in regards to anything that I do an unboxing, overview, and impressions of. I don't have the ability currently for a setup to do in-use items for testing to be videoed. So I'm more than happy to be able to answer any questions in comments. Feel free to leave a comment, and I'll do my best to answer. As I see or receive them, I try and get back to them immediately. I don't like to leave people hanging, because neglect is one of my triggers that, I don't like to impose that feeling upon anyone. So, guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoy this, you want to subscribe, great. It means you'll know whenever I have another video coming up. You can also follow me on Twitter at Zybernite, same way as it is here on YouTube. And hope you guys have a good night, good day, take care. Zybernite, your Tech and Games Crusader. We'll see you later.